Hi and welcome to NLP Upskill Your Life podcast. So it's great to be joined by yourself, Fintan, again, and Rich, doing another great episode of this podcast. So this is episode 10, would you believe? My God, it's gone quick. Like, we've been doing these for the best part of 5 weeks now, because every second Tuesday. But we want to just say a big thank you to all our guests we've had on the podcast since this began. About a couple of months ago now, and like to Fergal, most recent guest, which was great, Fergal O'Brien, number one snooker player in Ireland. So thanks a lot, Fergal. And we also had Orlando Zucchetto, who's a brilliant teacher in LLP. So that was great as well. We had Tony Gordon as well. So we've done so well with the guests. I'm sure you agree with me, lads.
Definitely, Mark. Yeah,
we're very lucky.
Yeah. So today we're going to really talk around what, like, the conversation we had with Fergal last week, around the points we took out of that podcast, which there was so much great information that Fergal shared with us. So we're going to pretty much talk around that tonight.
Cool.
Absolutely, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the first things that we spoke about with Fergal was he mentioned that he was returning to, he had already returned to Q school. And so the idea of, first of all, returning to school to improve yourself, to work on your weaknesses, to get better. And also the fact that he had used diet, fitness, technical coach, and a mind coach. I suppose for anybody who's trying to improve their craft to be the very best that they can, it's something that's very important to do, is to go and find somebody who knows what they're doing in that particular area, and to be able to learn from that person, have them instruct you. And also it is good that we do learn from our mistakes, but it's good to have somebody who's there who can help you avoid that. They've already made those mistakes, so they can get you on the right track straight away. Something like we're trying to do here is we've learned over the years from our own mistakes, and we've now learned NLP, and we're helping people use those skills to help people, the people who are listening to the podcast.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's like what you were saying is, people have gone through that process, they become very highly skilled in their area of expertise, and that will help you to improve it without making mistakes that they did. They can point you in a direction that's easy to go, whatever direction that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's a great point that you made there, Fintan, as well as Fergal said as well on the podcast. The way, like, he was saying that, for instance, just say, like, you're starting off with a skill, let's say music, or like learning to be perform at guitar, or anything you may be doing, like, to kind of get some advice from people that have been there. It's going to really improve you, and you don't have to start at the beginning. Then, like, you're learning from their success, really.
Well, I disagree with that, Mark. It's, as a few people have said, is always have a beginner's mindset. Okay. So then that means you're quite coachable or helps be coachable in that you haven't got the attitude there of going, I know this already, I know how to do this, because that can then end up setting people up for that failure.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah.
I suppose we've all worked with people who, feel that they know things. You tell them something, you explain something to them, or you try to explain something to them, and they go, "Oh yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that. I understand." You go, "How could you understand that? It took me like years to understand this," and that, and you kind of help feeling that, well, either they're extremely bright, or they're not really taking this in fully.
They're probably not taking it in fully,
I would say.
Yeah.
But another thing you mentioned, you spoke about, was his move to England to follow his ambition. That he had wanted to become a professional snooker player at 14, and waited till he was 18, done his leaving cert, and he so did that, and then he moved to England. And we see that a lot with a lot of soccer players as well. Obviously, going over playing in the Premiership, going from Ireland, because that's where the big games are. That's where the other big players are, I suppose.
Yeah. Ultimately, if you're staying where you are, you're going to that person is going to stagnate, and there's going to be a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a cousin of mine who used to go to a local Amtram thing, and this last there she used to be a phenomenal singer, but she was scared to leave the little town and go off and do like big things, which she definitely had the voice for.
Yeah. Yeah, that just kind of proves the point, really, doesn't it?
People worried about leaving their comfort zone and what other people will think.
Yeah.
So people need to go out there, and to those people who have that knowledge and coaching or whatever it is.
Yeah. The next point he made, actually, I found was very interesting. And that was that he mentioned that he had previously mentioned that he was playing with lads who were much better than he was. Yet he's now a professional snooker player, and they're no longer playing snooker professionally. Even he was on a club team, and he was the third best player in the club team. So not alone in Dublin or in Ireland, but on his own team, he was only the third best player. And he had heard people say, "Oh well, look, whatever about so and so making it professionally, there's no way Fergal will make it." And he said that he just used that to motivate himself to push forward.
Great point. Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting point, and I found that resonated particularly with myself. That just because you're not the best as things stand doesn't mean that, first of all, you can't improve. But like, as we're going to go through this, you'll see all the different ways that he chose to improve, and the difference between being naturally talented and being a professional snooker player. You know, and like, it's something that I use myself when I'm playing hurling or wherever it is. If I'm at training, I make lots of mistakes, but I learn from them. I come back. I'm never disappointed. What I do is I go, okay, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or I never upset with myself. Might be disappointed, that the ball comes into you, and rather than collecting it and just sticking it over the bar, you fluff it. Somehow you delay in collecting the ball, and next thing you know, someone's on top of you, the ball is turned over and it's gone, and it should have been a point, and it should have been a point. And you can be there going, well, look, I am disappointed. Am I upset? No, because I know that I can work on that, and I need to work on that, and I will go and work harder on that. Things like that. So it's definitely something that resonates with me. That I don't listen to if people say, well, look, there's no way, what's he doing? you know, what's he doing? He shouldn't be doing this, or he shouldn't be doing that. And it doesn't applies to anything in life, And I just go, well, the thing is, can I improve? Absolutely. Do I want to improve? Absolutely. Do I want to work harder? Am I willing to put in the effort? Am I willing to put in the learning? And absolutely. And if those answers are absolutely, then you can achieve whatever you like.
Now that's a really good point, Fintan. I remember him saying that because that kind of resonated with me as well. Because he was talking as well about Michael Jordan, one of the best basketball players of all time. Like
Right.
he was told that in the beginning that like he wasn't as tall as the other players in the college team, and he maybe wasn't as skilled, but that made him work even harder than anybody else. He was out like first thing in the morning every morning, and the other night he was practicing the game, and it just kind of it's a great point for anybody that's listening. If someone puts you down to say, God, you're not going to make it, like you're not good enough forever, it just shows you it's a perfect example from Fergal O'Brien and Michael Jordan for what they did and look what they became. So I feel it's a really, really good point.
Absolutely. It shows the limits of somebody else's belief in themselves. Potentially not you. It's just them reflecting on what they're doing. Maybe they don't think they can do it. And also as well, if I remember rightly, Fergal was on the back when he did hire a coach and he was playing club snooker. He did get that coaching, and the other people on that team were taking a piss out of him.
That's right. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
I remember him saying that. Yeah, he said that if he made a mistake, someone would go, "Oh, go back to your coach," you know.
Yeah.
But you see that in top performance athletes all have those now, you know. Like even if people are playing at county level, they have fitness coach, you know, fitness coaches, technical coaches. They have all sorts of support. They have an entire team supporting them, and it's amazing what they have. They're in the gym. They get a program based purely on their own abilities, where they need to improve, what their weaknesses are, and these are all assessed. And have any of you been watching The Underdogs?
No.
Actually, you probably won't be rich. It's a TV program, and basically they create a team, people from all over the country, from where, say, this year it's hurling, last year it was football, and you know, so they will be weaker counties in hurling, and they never played on a hurling team at the highest level. And the idea then is that they play one of the highest inter-county teams at the end of the season, and to see how they get on. And what's interesting is the whole mindset process, you know, to bring people who don't have that play aren't in that place to a place where they're actually at inter-county standard, you know, and to see how they come on and all the work they have to do. It's not just on the pitch; it's in the gym. It's all these sort of things, you know. And it's very interesting actually. I find it, as I said, resonates with me personally, you know.
No, you remind me there when you're saying that, Fintan, you know, for instance, if a teacher of a class, like, you know, I know we were talking about the Fergal O'Brien's podcast last week, but just on a little side now, I remember reading that book, Teaching Excellence, where got the author's name again.
Kate Benson.
Kate Benson, yeah. She was basically saying she had this class who were supposedly underperformers or not that great, but then she put in a mindset these are really clever. These are really clever kids, and she kind of installed them in them that they were much cleverer than they were, and it kind of stood out that they did actually, because we're treated like that, it kind of made it come true, so to speak. You know, they actually excelled on what they thought they'd be able to do. You know.
Absolutely. With that, Mark, there has been several experiments in schools where they divide the kids up and give them various exams to do. Yeah. And there's one group of kids who've been told they're very hardworking, and the other group have been told that they're very bright, very intelligent. And so they get given more tests and more exams. And the kids who are harder working, they go on to pass more tests, more of these exams. Where the other kids who are brighter, they eventually start giving up because they think they're too bright, and the questions get harder and harder. Where they're not, they're just the same level as what the other kids were doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So language and context is very important. What to tell people.
And it's the mindset as well, isn't it? Like it's kind of the fixed or the fixed mindset or the progressive mindset, you know. Where there's a really good book as well called Mindset. Carol Dweck, she wrote a really good book all based on mindset as well, which is a great one as well.
Steve was saying as well, is that working others who are, so you've gone back, naturally talented?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You mentioned that all right, that there were others that he were also playing and with them, and they were naturally more talented. But he outworked them, yeah. And he also mentioned that his lifestyle was more about pushing forward with the snooker, whereas theirs, they went off, they would be out drinking, whatever, and he would be at home practicing. He would be putting in the hours. He was saying he was practicing 6 hours a day, and
he
was also staying in Saturday nights rather than going out drinking and stuff like that, you know. So all of that sort of thing helped him, whereas they kind of fell by the wayside, and he just kept going up and up,
Definitely. Yes. Bernard Hopkins, you come across in the boxer.
Right, yeah.
That was his kind of lifestyle was. That's why he lasted so long in boxing, was he wouldn't go out partying or anything like that. He would just be dedicating himself to his boxing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's it, isn't it? It does take, look, to make it to the top in any field, any profession, particularly in any sport, it does take an awful lot of
Dedication.
And you do have to give up so much. You have to sacrifice so much to get there, But if you want it enough, then it's there for the taking, that there's so much you can do to help yourself to improve,
like to basically eat and drink and sleep the sport, like
absolutely. I was talking to one of the lads there with a hurling match yesterday, and I was talking to one of the lads, and he plays inter-county. So I was asking him when they'll be starting back, with the inter-county, and he said, well, they won't be on the pitch till about December, but they'll be in the gym probably in the next few weeks, and that would be that, because and that's the dedication that they have. And like what happens is they play their inter-county season last then from December up until they had their final in June, I think it was. And then it was back to county or club hurling then, and that's that's the way it goes. That it just there's very little respite, if you like, very little break, for them. So it's you do need to dedicate a lot of time and energy to it, and you can understand that people. You can understand, for example, there was some of the Dublin footballers when they were on top. They had won 6 in a row, and they've pulled out then, because they had other things, because there's so much of their life is just dedicated to football, And exactly. You can see that, look, you do want other things in life as well, So it just depends on how dedicated you are prepared to be to achieve your goal, And that's what makes the difference between someone who makes it to the top and doesn't.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, I think what Fergal said as well in the last podcast, the way he was saying, like, when you're playing the game, a big match, don't think, I'm going to win this match. Do you know what he was saying that? Like, he was sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this. Even if he's close to the finish line, it can kind of put you off to think you're so close, How did you...
Yeah, he said it's a complete contradiction is you've got to go in that tournament with wanting to win it. But then each ball that he's playing is, I just got to think of that ball in that moment and not think of anything else.
Absolutely. In fact, he quoted Steve Davis as saying that you should play as if it means nothing. Because otherwise, and he said himself that if there was a time when he would be thinking ahead during the game, oh, right, actually, if I win this game now, I'll be into the semi-final. And then he starts thinking about getting tickets for his family or friends to come over. And next thing, he's knocked out in the quarterfinal, because he let his mind. The one thing I picked up from that, because actually the whole way through the interview, that came up several times, and we'll see that as we go through it. But the one thing I picked from that was the fact that he said he concentrates for a living, right? Basically, he has to empty his mind. And by emptying his mind means then that he doesn't get caught up in the moment, and he uses several things to break his state. Like, for example, if he's doing badly in a frame, he has an imaginary line to step over. Once he steps over that line, to him, that frame is gone. And I remember reading about Milton Erickson, and he went in, he was training army snipers, American army snipers. And basically what he was teaching them to do was to forget about the last shot. Each shot is the first shot. And so whether it was a good shot and you hit, or it was a bad shot, it doesn't matter. It's over. You're just focusing on the next shot as if it's the first shot. And that way, then people didn't get caught up with, oh my God, I just missed that shot. But I'd be able to get this shot, you know, that sort of thing. And took that away from them. And and he does that. He has that imaginary line and he goes, okay, that frame is now over. I'm just going to get on. This is the first frame. This is the first frame, I suppose, for the rest of this match, you know. So yeah, and he also went through a couple of things explaining how he helps to break a state. Like, for example, if he's really het up over something, he goes to the toilet. Instead of having a minute break, he might have a 2 or 3 minute break. And that just helps him break state. So when he comes back, then he feels so much better, you know. And of course, then obviously, if his opponent doesn't keep their composure or loses their composure, then it kind of boosts him, because then he goes, oh, look at this now. He's losing his composure. He knows then that he has him on the back foot. He's going to be at a disadvantage. He's not going to be totally focused on each shot now. And that, you know.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying about the whole game and not concentrating on what they're doing in that moment in time, is listen to a guy called Andy Stumpf, and he was a US Navy SEAL, and he eventually went into the training wing, and he always wondered why some guys who could be very good athletes would drop out Navy SEAL training compared to other guys who weren't so good athletes. And he kind of found out that it was the guys who could break that day down, so they would just go for the next meal or just that next reward and just go on and on and on, or the next sleep. But the other guys, they would be looking the whole day, and eventually they would get overwhelmed by it, because then they'd go from the day, go to the week, and go to the whole program instead of just break it down step by step.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because I only listened to something there during the week. Lads, I remind what you were saying there, like by breaking state. Just say, for instance, there's a kid that's I was actually talking about to you the other day about Finton, where like a friend of mine at work was saying that his son was only starting college, and he felt kind of he's not the kind of guy that's really outgoing. He got in crowds, he wouldn't be great. He'd be okay 1-on-1, but when it's a big crowd and new situation, he kind of didn't feel very comfortable. Like, you know, which can happen to a lot of people, me included. When I went to school, like I was something similar to that as well. But I heard a really good thing there the other day, where basically what you do is you get like even a circle or a ring, one of them gymnastic rings, and you place it in front of them, in front of the person, and you get them to step into that ring, and you say all the negative stuff that you feel about that situation, be it being in the crowd, or if if you're going to do a speech or like that, God, I'm going to be crap, I'm not organized, I'm not that, and you leave all that stuff in that circle, and you step out of that circle, and you breathe in deeply through your nose, and stand tall, and walk with your arms swinging, and if that feels makes you feel more confident. And as you do that, like you're building confidence in yourself. And then what this is kind of a rough thing I took out, but basically what he says then is, he says at the end of doing that for a while, you go through that ring and just get rid of all that, go shoot it all away out of that ring, and as you walk through it, and then when you walk through it, you've got through the other side, and then walk back through it again and blow it all away again. And after a while, when you walk through it again, just walk through it tall with all the confidence that you have for doing that particular thing you want to do. I just thought it was really, really powerful thing that I can't remember what the correct terminology is they use for it, but it's a very strong tactic.
Yeah, the ring of excellence, is that what you're on about, Mark?
So
you can do the opposite. Yeah. Somebody can do the opposite way as well. Is they can step in, build an invisible ring, or have like a 3D image of them somewhere. Then they can step into that and just build all the resources they need. So they may be looking at superheroes, a relative, a good friend of theirs, or whomever they can find inspiration from, and draw all those resources in, just get a really good state.
Yeah. Oh, great stuff. Yeah. No, it's very, very powerful, because my friend that was talking in the work afterwards, he tried it with his son, and I'm looking forward to talking to him tomorrow to see how he got on,
That'd be cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an excellent piece, and there's lots of other empowering things you can do to empower yourself, and maybe we could actually do one or two up as we go with the things, and maybe rather than do them during the podcast, put a link in the thing, so in the notes, so that people can listen to them at a later date when they have the time, so they don't have to be worried about listening to us while they're driving or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good idea. Good idea, yeah, for people.
Yeah, but it's even something you could listen to, do an eyes closed process, a meditative process, or that sort of thing,
Yeah.
There's an excellent one that I used myself, which is you get relaxed and then you find people that it's basically copying what are building on what you were saying there a minute ago, which is people that have resources that you would like to have, and you visualize them, and then what you do then is bring them into yourself, those
Yeah.
resources
Oh, wow.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And actually that's something that I do every day myself, um, depending on what it is that I'm trying to work on, But yeah, so maybe we can do something at a later stage or at some point, and put it in the notes. Do just an eyes closed process, as they say.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Definitely. I did one of those with a guy I'm working with. However,
Yeah.
it didn't quite work because he didn't identify as a marathon runner. But what he did identify was somebody who did a lot of hill walking. So context and working with their frame of reference is very essential when we work with the kind of situations.
Very true. Yeah, there's a bit of a difference, all right, between a marathon runner and a hill
Definitely.
walker.
Aye. So yeah,
A lot of similarities, but yeah,
it is.
some
There is,
differences.
but he can get that frame of reference. He had been running for years and years and years,
Yeah, yeah.
and he wanted to go walking as well. So his reference was completely out of what he was. Yeah, frame reference completely gone.
Well,
Yeah, it's up to that person to build up that state for themselves. So that's what I was told by various people, is not to encourage them, so that person then will draw those states in for themselves. And it's not for you then to, or whoever's coaching that person, to say, spin a bit faster, build up a bit more, and get more excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
You won't be there with them all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing, I'll get back to the podcast with Fergal, which I remember him saying there was close to the end, really, where he was saying that for instance, when you have to play long distance away, like in where it was China or one of the China Opens, like where he had to kind of have a totally different schedule, so to speak. He had to kind of put himself in a different schedule because the way the flights were, and like that's why I think routines can be really important.
Yeah, and like he was saying, is he couldn't get to sleep, so he's a bit jet lagged, obviously, and he would be up at say 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and think he's a crazy guy going down to the gym or wherever it was to play on the snooker tables. There'd be all the other snooker players there doing the same thing. So at least he's not alone.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that's quite important. The thing to take away is whatever situation you're going through, no matter how good or bad it is, there's always somebody who is going through a similar predicament as yourself or situation.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose that people can support each other in those circumstances, And I suppose it also goes back to sometimes finding people who, know how to work their way through this labyrinth, if you like, and it can help you through any situation, yeah. Yeah, one of the things that he mentioned was about skill levels. We were saying about he was saying that there are all the top players would have similar skill levels. So what actually wins it for people is their mentality. is who's best prepared. The person that's best prepared is the one that's most likely to win. The person who has their mentality right, who can perform under pressure, who can, as we were talking there a minute ago about their concentration, empty their mind, not getting caught up with thoughts, even positive thoughts are distracting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that if you can be at your best consistently, right, that one player who's at their best 4 out of 10 matches, or another player that's at their best 9 out of 10 matches, will make a huge difference over the course of a tournament or their career, you know.
Definitely. I think there's also some people who do have that, for want of a better expression, innate God-given talent.
Yeah.
And for however they do it is, they will just be able to beat anybody on a good day.
Well, look, talent does make a big difference in the end, you know. And everybody's putting in the same effort and everybody's putting in the same level of commitment. Then in the end of the day, it is the talent that will win out, you know. There's no doubt about that. That said, it's not to negate the importance of all the other parts of it as well, you know.
No.
The mindset is really important.
Yeah, and just being able to go day in, day out to that snooker hall and play just those basic shots and just concentrate on playing that shot and that shot and that shot, however many goes it is in that time frame.
Absolutely, and that applies to everything. It's in the end of the day, it is the basic shots that win any game, you know, and it's practicing those time after time till you know, okay, that ball is there, bang, it's in. I know that's in the I'll say in the net, it's in the pocket, and that's it. Like, and without even having to worry about it or to think about it overly. And he was saying that he has his processes and he follows those processes, whether that's on the table or in preparation for the match, all of the things that he does, and that following the process, particularly in a game. Well, first of all, in preparation, obviously means then he is there and he's at his best when he's playing that game, but also when he's playing the game. So rather than getting caught up with thoughts of, oh, what am I going to do now? You know, he knows, just follows the process. He knows what to do. He's done this 1,000 times and he doesn't worry about it. He just follows that process, doesn't get distracted by the crowd, doesn't get distracted by the other player. Anything that they do, he just works on it and he just does his own thing. He knows what he has to do. And being able to stick to that process is what's most important. And that's why we were saying that he has the thing about the line, stepping over the line so he can leave that frame behind, focus on the process now for the next line or the next frame.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And then another point there was remember when he was saying about watching Ronnie O'Sullivan?
Yeah.
Can make it better, modeling the excellence, you know, of that player. I think it was basically saying, like, when he's watching, he said, God, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. Oh God, I have to think of myself here. You know, I thought that was a really good point.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah,
he was kind of taken away by his brilliance, and then he said, "Oh, hang on a second, I'm playing here as well."
Yeah. Quite a state to get in. Somebody watching front row seat of somebody really as good as Ronnie.
Absolutely, to be so close to the action, to watching that, like, you could understand how he would get caught up in that, and how sometimes you could see him doing something and go, "Oh wow, how can I do that? How can I practice that? I must have a go at that shot or at that wherever it might happen to me, you know." And he says he reckons that Ronnie is the best that there has been. So it is great to be, as you say, Rich, to be that close to the action, to be a front row seat. Yeah.
But like, I kind of understand, like, oh yeah, it must be great, all right, to be able to watch him just right beside you. But as well as that, like, I kind of might understand his point. You know the way how fast Ronnie is to make a 147. If you're watching his style day in day out when you're playing him, like when you're like when they play each other a lot, like that's basically going to rub off on the other opponent, the other person, to show the style that he does that.
Absolutely, yeah. And like when you think about it, your physiology, like when you're watching a good player like that, quite often you pick up on their physiology, how each muscle is moving and that sort of thing. And quite often you can actually change your own physiology in order to replicate something. You see somebody, like you can see different footballers, different hurlers in all sports, people doing something just excellently. And you think, okay, what is it that they're doing? How are they doing it? Can you feel it in your own muscles? And if you can, then you can go, okay, well, hang on a second, I could practice this. And there's small little things that people do. And if you could practice them and perfect them, well, then you can hugely improve your game no matter what the game is.
Yeah, definitely. Playing to your strengths and weaknesses, as they do say a lot in boxing as well, or whatever sport it is, play to your strengths, play to your speed, play to your capabilities, and dominate that opponent, and not let them dominate you in their strengths and abilities and whatever else they've got going.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely, yeah. Because I remember years ago when I used to watch snooker the whole time, and you'd be playing with your friend in the hall, whatever it is, and you'd be kind of watching them on television. Like I didn't know anything about NLP at the time or like that, but basically, like even for instance, the way they were taking four kind of shots before they actually went for the shot, you kind of naturally start doing that yourself. Like because he done that 4 strokes before he actually took the shot, and you're in the club and you kind of think, and lo and behold, like your game starts to improve because you're using that strategy.
Well, it's not only that, Mark, is you're also disrupting that other person's pattern as well. Yeah. So if they're a very quick player and you play really slowly, they're getting them frustrated because they want to get on that table. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, come on, hurry up and take a shot, because they're like a little Jack Russell, want to go for it all the time.
Yeah. And why do you keep winning? Yeah. But no, it was a great interview with Fergal. So thanks a million for coming on if you're listening.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
Be good to have him back on.
Sorry?
Be good to have him back on.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure. We could have spent the whole night talking to him, I think. That was a great interview. I really enjoyed that myself. Yeah, and that whole thing about playing to your strengths and practicing your weaknesses is that obviously during the match is when you play to your strengths, and then when you're in practice is when you work on your weaknesses. I think it was Tiger Woods apparently does up a list of his all the skills that he needs to play the perfect game of golf, if you like, and where each of them is on his list. And then he takes the 5 weakest and he practices them consistently until they're no longer in the bottom 5. And then he looks at the list again and he says, well, what's in the bottom 5 now? And practices them. And I suppose that's the time to try new things, to do different things, is when you're in practice. Obviously, when you're in the game, it's a different scenario. You're looking at, you have to do what you know how to do in the game. But when you're in practice, that's the time to try all the new things, make mistakes, and keep working on them until they get better.
Yeah, great point. Yeah,
and
great point.
The one other thing, actually, you asked Mark about the running, because I know you have an interest in running yourself. He joined a running club.
Luke and Harriers, isn't it? Yeah.
He was saying, yeah, something like that, yeah. And he was saying about improving his fitness. And it was one of the most important things, because whether he was practicing or playing a game, he said some of the games could go on into the middle of the night, And he's saying that you need to be as good in your last hour as you are in your first hour. And I thought that was very good, because how that applies across the board to every game. Because if you're playing a match and it goes into injury time, the more tired you get, the more likely you are to make mistakes. So if a game goes into injury time, you need to be able to, or extra time even, you need to be able to have that fitness level that you can continue to play excellently, rather than letting it go, and just making mistakes. And quite often that's where a soft goal is let in, or where you make a mistake in the snooker, and you're missing easy shots, and suddenly you're leaving the other person on and things like that. So I thought that was an excellent point that he made about your physical fitness as well as your mental fitness and your skill levels and ability.
And also with that is the contradiction of him playing snooker as well. So it's obviously a very solitary game. But as he was in that running club, it took him quite a while to get the idea of talking with people as you're running and how to improve the running as well.
That's right. Yeah, he was saying, why are these people giving me tips,
Yeah, absolutely.
on how to beat them.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was good. Yeah.
But I'm sure a lot of people, the older players on the game of the snooker, are probably sorry they didn't do that kind of stuff when they were playing at back in their day, because it makes sense to be physically fit in a game like that, because it is all related really with your mental state, your physical state.
It wasn't really thought about though, Mark, at that time, was it? Nobody really thought about getting coaches or anything like that. You look at the footballers back in, say, the 70s and 80s, they'd finish their season, they'd probably be out on the lash. They wouldn't, they wouldn't be doing any exercise or anything like that up until they get back to the club and start their pre-season training.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, makes sense.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that was suddenly it all changed.
a few more quid came into it, I think, didn't it? One or two more pounds.
Bit more professional as well.
Yeah. I was just thinking of there as well when you were saying that, about the concentration level. We did a podcast a couple of podcasts ago about ego states. It might be worth for people to look back on, because you mentioned ego states the other day for Fintan. It can work so well for anything like this, in snooker or anything you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things that I find is I work a computer all day, so I'll be there, and the last thing the last thing it's good for is when you're sitting at a desk on a computer all day, is focusing your mind on or getting ready for a game, or for training or anything like that, anything physical. So first of all, you have the sedentary nature of it, but also you have this narrow focus on the computer. Whereas when you're in a game, you need to be more observant. You need to have a wider focus of everything that's going on in the game and what to expect and all that sort of stuff. So in order to change, you do have to change your ego state, and quite often, actually, a routine can help you change your state. Actually, Fergal was talking about that, and I have a routine myself to get me from this place, which is the computer Fintan, to football or hurling Fintan, sort of thing, to get me into that place where I'm now focused on what I'm doing next, But actually, I was listening to a podcast yesterday and they're talking about Michael Phelps and his routine. And he follows exactly the same routine every single time. And he never veers from it. And it just keeps him, and it just gets him more and more focused from the start of the routine to the very bit where he's standing on the block. Up to and including wiping cleaning or drying off the block, and then he's standing there waiting for to dive in, And actually, another thing, an analogy that Fergal used was when when Michael Phelps or anyone else is swimming, they're not checking the board to see, I wonder how I'm getting on, They just dive in and swim, turn, swim, turn. It's many times they have to till eventually it's over, And he actually compared that with when he's playing really, really well, he's going, okay, potting all the balls, and then next thing all the balls are gone. And the ref actually has to come up to him and say, oh, right, Fergal, you've potted all the balls are gone, you won the game, you know? And he goes, oh, okay, yeah, that's grand.
Brilliant, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it comes well with boxing as well, doesn't it? Like you can't be checking the board, you know, when you're when you're having the scrap.
Absolutely,
You know?
yeah. Well, how am I doing? How am I doing? You know?
Just hang on a sec,
well, the judge has got scorecards. It's checking the timer, isn't it? Can I last this next 10 seconds or so from the end of the round?
Yeah, I suppose that you can certainly find yourself in that position, all right. If you're getting hammered, you know, just to keep standing up, keep standing.
I'm still standing. Yeah.
Right.
But what I was going to say, just talking about routines, Fintan, there's something I started doing there recently. I know everybody kind of does gratitude journals every night. You know, little gratitude, 3 things you're grateful for that happened that day. But I kind of got this from somebody there. If you do it in the morning as well, like you know, it can be great for your RAS. You know, reactivating system. Is that what they call it? Yeah.
The reticular activating system, RAS. Yeah.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, I couldn't think of the one in the part in the middle there, but basically what it says you do, and I have started doing it where in the morning you even get the notes in your phone and just type in 3 things you will be grateful for in this day. Like, you know, be it I'm going to be grateful for doing my routines this morning. I'm going to be grateful to have fun with my kids. I'm going to be grateful for a nice meal I'm going to have later on. And by writing that down, and as you do it, you're like your Google or whatever you want to call it is in your brain is saying, "Oh, this guy is doing what he said he's doing." You know, kind of, it's a good thing to give it a go.
Absolutely, yeah. That's an excellent suggestion, Mark. And as you said, yeah, at the end of every day, go through what worked well for you and what you're grateful for. And even if something went badly, but you got something from it, you know, somebody helped you out or something like that, well, then be grateful for that, you know. So there definitely is a positive in everything, no matter what it is that happens to you, you know, there's always something to be grateful for in it. And that's a great idea, actually, because I do a gratitude routine in the morning, but what you were saying was about a look into the future, because what I do is I look at what I am grateful for in that particular day. But yeah, what I will be grateful for, I'm definitely going to do that in the morning. That kind of makes sense. And it does kind of set an intention then for the day, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
It is. It is. It's a nice one. Yeah, it is a nice one. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're going about 40 minutes now. I think I haven't got the watch, but I think it's
That's
roughly
fair
around
enough.
that.
I
But
think people are,
we're going to do a scale on lay. I think you're going to do it today, Rich.
Aye, yeah. And so it goes like this: is there was this little old lady, and she had been told she hadn't got long left to live. So she went round her. She got back home from the doctors, and she went round her house, and she visited all the rooms, and looked in the children's room, and had a look round there, remembered a few things, moved into her bedroom, and had a look round there. And eventually, she decided, right, I need to start packing things up and start tidying things away and getting rid of all the stuff that I don't need. And so, as she was going around tidying all the odds, bits and bobs up, or the odds and ends, tidying all them up, putting them away, she eventually had 3 bags. One bag was for just rubbish that nobody would ever want. The second bag was kind of rubbishy, but it might be useful for, say, a charity shop or some friends who were associated with her. And the third bag was just for her family that was left behind. And that was all the bits and bobs all tidied up and nicely put away.
thanks very much, Rich.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks very much. Let that sink in, everybody. Great stuff. And do we have
Empowering question.
empowering question? Kesh Donley.
Who's going to do it today?
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Okay, I haven't prepared anything, but sure, here we go. Okay, just thinking about what we spoke about today, routines, and what like all the information that Fergal has given us today or the last podcast. Just think to yourself, what routine can you start today that will make things better now and going forward for the rest of your life? So what routine will you start now or in the morning that will make things better now and for the rest of your life?
Thanks very much, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, thanks a million for listening to today's podcast, NLP Upskill Your Life, with myself, Mark, and Fintan and Rich. Episode 10. Wow, the weeks are going quick. Yeah, but make sure you get your questions into us if you want us to discuss anything in the podcast. I know Sean did send an email there recently. We'll get to your question maybe the next podcast. We'll answer that for you. Thanks a lot. So get a mailbag, get a couple of people.
Or just put questions in the Facebook group.
Facebook group, or even
we
email
could answer
us
there straight away.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. If you could do that, that'd be great. Yeah, our Facebook group is one of the best ways to do it. Yeah. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, and I might have something for you next week as well if you want to tune in. Something on mentalism trick. we'll give you next week. So tune in for that. We'll probably like to kind of see what you think of the next trick, because I did a card trick last week. Hope you enjoyed that one the last time. But no, once again, thanks a million for tuning into the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks again.